Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Wire to Wire Sports Podcast. I am your host, Benny the Jet Rodriguez, the NFL genius, Gene Walzak. I'm joined in my upper left corner by the man that runs the ones and twos with the fake Cleveland sign in the background. Alex Gatrell. How you feeling tonight, brother?
Hey, feeling good. Feeling good.
I got it. Listen, before I get it to Shally, because I need to call you out. You're wearing some soccer stuff. We don't do grass ping pong on this show.
Sure, it's messy, baby.
Nah, bro. Get it off. Get done with it. In the upper right corner, I got Uncle Shally, Scholastic Shally, William Shallcross the Fourth.
Junior. Just junior, but
just kidding.
I like the messy rep. You need more soccer on the show.
No, we don't.
Hey, Ladies World Cup next, baby.
Absolutely.
Next week, baby.
Absolutely.
We got a lot to talk about tonight. Major League All-Star Game, Home Run Derby, UFC recap. We got our linebackers list. I promise you, this will be the first of many absolute ridiculous surprises you have for me on my list. I promise you. Listen, when we get to the wide receivers list, I'm going to blow you away. Blow you away. But we got a lot to get into. We're also going to talk about the NBA in-season tournament. We'll talk about that for a little bit. And I got a fun, you got to be kidding me. People that trash Philadelphia, you don't ever end up very well. And I promise you, I'm so sick of hearing from that crybaby organization down in San Francisco to give you a hint of where I'm going. But first, we got to talk about the All-Star Game. We got to talk about the Home Run Derby. Let's start with the Derby. Julio Rodriguez, my man, dragged 41 home runs in the first round. That is absurd. One of the most ridiculous things I've ever seen in my life. He had a 30-degree launch angle, 100 miles an hour on like 9 straight balls he hit. It was just 29 degree, 30 degree. And it's like he had the launch angle, he had the area, and he just kept jacking them. Put on a show for the home crowd. Before we get into the winner, what was your thoughts on Julio Rodriguez?
I mean, it's an impressive feat. I don't think people, especially pretty much like off batting practice pitching, how much power those guys have to generate to swing that hard, hit 41 home runs. And then you factor in all the other swings he had that they didn't go out. You have to be in pretty damn good shape to swing a bat that hard that many times in a row to put on a show like that. That's one of those ones, one of those rounds you look at and, you wish there almost wasn't, it wasn't rapid fire with the current rules. I would have loved to see what he could have done if he could actually been selective with his pitches and, it went on that type of route. I mean, he was in the zone, man. You got to give credit to his pitcher too. Everything was middle in and he was barreling everything. It's impressive, man. It's one of those things. I mean, if you're a fan of the game, you love to see it. And, you were glad that you were sitting in front of your TV when it happened.
I was going to say, for me, I think that the biggest thing is that, that first round, he was matched up with Pete Alonso, and he got the luxury of going first. So, he knew right away that, or at least, thinking coming in, you got to put up a big number. Pete's put up 35 in that first round before. He's had the 31 rounds. So, you got to clear 30s if you want to be safe. So, for him to go out there, put up the 41 home runs, absolutely insane. And it was crazy to see because, those young guys like really set the tone early. Like Randy had a great first round. Adley had a great first round as well. And so, Adley putting up 27, 28 home runs and not making it to the second round. And I thought, at the time, like, hey, he's on fire. Like he might have a chance to win this. And then Julio goes out there and puts up, 40 plus. Absolutely insane.
So to talk about the Julio Rodriguez thing, I looked at him when he started and I was just like, I think that what you said is incorrect, right? I'm going to correct you right away. He didn't have the luxury of going first. That's the problem. If he would have went second, he wouldn't have had to expend all that energy to hit 41 home runs in the first round. He could have stopped. I think that he burned himself out.
He did.
So if we're talking about Julio Rodriguez, that's one thing. Do you know what the most impressive thing of the night was for me? I've I've never seen a guy swing a bat so hard and win a home run derby. Vlad Guerrero Jr. overswings everything, right? Like he doesn't have that smooth swing. That's why I would never pick him to win a home run derby. He has that Prince Fielder violent swing of the bat. His bat speed's got to be the fastest by far in that entire tournament.
He swings like his dad.
He swings from his heels to his toes. And a minute and a half into his first round, I'm like, well, I know who's not going to win a derby. It's not going to be Vlad Guerrero Jr. because this guy is swinging for Jesus. He looked like he needed a break. He took that time out at a minute 29 in the first round. And in my head, I'm like, all right, well, he might win this first round, but there's no way he'll be able to continue that pace, swinging the bat that hard.
Facts.
Well, I was wrong. I was absolutely wrong. I thought that was incredible, an incredible performance by Vlad Guerrero Jr. And then the second thing, and I'm guessing this is what you were about to talk about, did Adley Rushman hit home runs from both? Did he switch hit in the Derby, hitting balls out left and right? Am I mistaken?
And you can argue that, it looks like the way how effortlessly it was, he should have started out on the other side to begin with.
Yeah, I mean, when he went to right-handed, I mean, his first 6 went out. Yeah, that was crazy. I mean, listen, we've talked about him at length on this show numerous times. I mean, he's most likely going to end up being a generational talent, especially at the catcher position. Honestly, even the Julio with the big number in the first round, I think got overshadowed a little bit because he did burn himself out and he got knocked out in the next round. The Adley thing for me was the highlight of the night for me. I thought that was really cool. It's the first time I think it's ever been done. You may never see it again. I mean, he'll probably do it again, but that was awesome. And to do it on your bonus round too, not knowing you have to put up a number. It's not like he what's the right side. I knew he had hit like 2. Like he had no idea what he was going to need, so he went over there risking a lot and just started jacking him. Like I said, his first 6 swings I think went out, put up a huge number. I mean, he was my dark horse for a reason. I mean, I've watched the kid hit enough online. I've seen him mess around on like YouTubers channels and stuff like that. He can hit home runs when he wants to. He has a way smoother swing in real games. He's not trying to launch the ball, as much as a power hitter. But, I would have loved to see him advance. But I mean, you got to tip your cap to Robert, who went out and put up a huge number as well.
2 quick things. If you're listening on the Sports Empire Network feed, switch over to the Wire to Wire Sports Podcast feed so we can see your comments. The comments don't come through on that feed because we cross post. But just want to, anybody listening out there, a couple comments I at least want to. And Freddie just tagged the whole group in the wrong group. Freddie, please tag them all on the Wire to Wire side. I'd really appreciate it. I love you.
Come on, Freddie.
Adalis Garcia had the worst BP pitcher of the night. Kyle Edwards said that. And then I need to get into Peter Lira Fausto's comment. Peter, I don't know how – I know you listen to the show often. I really appreciate that. But I'm very open with my wrongs. I'm wrong a lot. And like I said last week when we had that dope in the chat, I hope he shows up again tonight to tell me I'm an idiot. I love – my favorite comment of anybody in the world is "you're an idiot." You guys, chat, give me a "you're an idiot." I need at least 1 or 2 "you're an idiot." I love them. They make me feel good inside.
They make me feel good.
What is he saying you're wrong about?
Because I said I was wrong. I said there's no way Vlad Guerrero Jr. He's kidding. There's no way Vlad Guerrero Jr. was going to win the home run derby after swinging like that in the first round. He's saying 1 more year wrong. It's actually funny. I want to highlight. I love being wrong. I'm an idiot sandwich. There it is, Chase, my guy. Chris says he loves a good dope. I'm with it.
What do you mean by that, Chris?
But we got a lot to get into outside the Derby. Anybody want to comment on anything else Derby-wise?
I miss the old rules.
Oh,
I really do.
Yeah, I do too.
I say that because I think you look at the way Julio was. I don't know what that night or that round could have possibly turned in for him if he wasn't having to swing almost at every pitch that was thrown in. And it was, before the Derby started, SportsCenter did a top 10, of the Derby moments, and it got down like towards the, the bottom, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I remember I totally forgot about it. And they showed the Josh Hamilton night at Yankee Stadium where he literally hit 13 swings in a row, went out, and just, I just think there was more intrigue to it. I think it was better for the hitters. I saw a bunch of people put up, not making it as rapid fire as it is, but capping it at maybe like 10 minutes around. I think I would like that too, because the guys could be more selective. If they get down towards the end and they haven't hit a bunch, and they kind of got to go into the mode that they're playing in now. I just don't like rushing the guys. I think it's a spectacle enough where it doesn't have to be rushed, and let these guys really show you what you can do. If you can hit 41 in 3 minutes, if you're that locked in, like what can he do if he's not pressured to swing at every pitch? So I would love to go back to the old rules. I liked it a lot better.
And I think just kind of piggybacking off of what you said, Shally, I think you could have a blend of going back to the old rules and keeping this how it is now. Like if you want to have a timed round, like a three-minute round, I think you can put that somewhere in the Derby, whether you make that first or you make the final round more selective. I think you can incorporate both, because I think their biggest thing was that the Derbies just lasted too long. And I think you can kind of incorporate both, where the Derby doesn't last that long, but then you still get some of the nuances from, that old school Derby feel.
I love that. I love that. I think you should start with the 3-minute round, and then the second and third round go back to the 10 outs. I want the 10 outs. You guys remember the 10 outs? I want that.
That's what I want. I saw another proposal where it was, again, like if you go back to some of the older ones, you would have guys that would hit for half an hour. Like you have to get away from that. The rounds now last for, even we factor in their Gatorade timeouts and all that stuff. They last between like 5 and 6 minutes. I saw a thing where it was everybody, you could be selective as you wanted, but everybody got 10 minutes or 10 outs, whichever came first. And there was no timeouts. And then they put an interesting thing at the end was like from like 9.5 minutes to 10, if you decided you could go rapid fire, then like everyone you hit counted as 2, or like put some kind of twist like that on it. I would even be all for that. This 3 minutes thing, it just rushes it too much for me.
I don't think it's rushed. I don't think one's better than the other as far as the time. I think the outs were cool. So like, watch this. Ready? Let's say a guy's got 20 home runs and 30, and another guy's got 14, and there's only 30 seconds left. Hitting 6 home runs in 30 seconds is almost impossible, right?
It's almost impossible.
Well, if a guy's got 20 home runs and 9 outs, and he goes on a tear and he needs to get that last out, and he just keeps cranking them, like, when's that last out going to happen?
Yeah.
That to me feels like a lot more fun. And Rod Isaac, let me just comment. There's only one guy on this panel to pick your Baltimore Orioles to go to the playoffs. I love the Baltimore Orioles. I love what they're doing. I love the young team. So I'm with you, brother. Make them my AL team. Let's talk about the All-Star game. Let's talk about the overall All-Star game. 3-2. Pitching dominated the All-Star game. Philadelphia Phillies had their hands in a lot, right?
Yeah.
Skipper made the right moves, right calls, putting the right people in. Castellanos scored one of the 3 runs. And who got the save? Was that Craig Kimbrell?
Craig Kimbrell.
I love it. I was super happy as a Phillies fan. I was proud. The NL finally got a win, and they get a win because the coach, Rob Thompson of the Philadelphia Phillies, he's my MVP. He should have won the MVP. Rob Thompson. If it wasn't him, give it to Kimbrell or Castellanos.
The game was definitely like interesting. It was interesting for different reasons. I feel like, before you get, tons of hits, or you see more home runs, but this game, I mean, it was competitive quite literally the whole way through. Like having a home run happen in that 8th inning, like that had people locked in. I think it also added some intrigue, at least for me, because there were so many guys that were kind of missing. So I know, you had some pitchers who were supposed to be there that ultimately weren't there. So it was like, hey, how are these replacements going to step up? Whether it be their first time or they weren't even expecting to be pitching now. So like, how are they about to handle this? So I think this year's game, it gave me a lot of intrigue. The only thing that I kind of miss about baseball is I think they had it, and granted, they're not missing it because the game's still competitive, but I thought they had it perfect when, this game decided home field advantage. Like give something for the players to play for. I think that is the way they bring these other games, their all-star games, competitive. If you do it in the NFL, hey, if you win AFC or NFC, your conference is hosting the Super Bowl this following year or whatever. So you got to find ways to bring more intrigue, and I love that.
You are 100% wrong, sir.
Agreed.
I loved it.
it's the baseball All-Star game is held up because they haven't changed anything. They still have to go out and actually play the game. There is no like the Pro Bowl, like you can't blitz, you can't do this, you can't do that. Like the baseball game is still a baseball game. None of the pitchers want to go out there and get lit up. None of the hitters want to go out there and get embarrassed. It's still a game. They play the game with the same rules. That's why it's held up, to the test of time. I hated the home field advantage thing because at most you probably have 2 or 3 guys on the team that are actually on the All-Star roster that actually have a shot of going to the World Series. I don't want a bunch of guys that are on teams that are out of contention deciding if my team has home field advantage. I hated that. It was just a stupid Bud Selig, decision. I do agree with you with the other thing, though. I think it was kind of, compared to the last couple of years, especially too. I don't think Seattle showed out that much. I think the crowd was kind of, on the mild side, for the home run derby and the All-Star game. I will agree with Cottrell. They were missing a lot of star power in this game. They really were. You had no Bryce Harper. You had no Mike Trout. There was a bunch of pitchers that dropped out. There was probably people there that, casual fans probably didn't know who they were. And it's that was my only gripe. I thought, for an All-Star game, I thought it was kind of a dead crowd. And I hate when they're on the West Coast. I mean, you watch the All-Star, watch the home run derby at 7:00 and there were still like empty seats everywhere. If that's the East Coast game at 7:00 where people are out of work and every other damn thing in the world, like they're drunk at 7. Like they can't wait for the home run derby to start. Like Seattle, people are just, working on their computers and not even paying attention. So I hate when they're out West, but I got to give a little gripe to Seattle fans. An All-Star game is a special thing to host. You don't get them very often at all. And I thought they were, I don't know, sat on their hands a little mild. Sat on their hands a little too much for me.
So here's a couple comments I have for the All-Star game. And I don't want to spend too much time on it because it bores me. I'm going to be completely honest with you. It is the best All-Star game out of the big 3. And hockey's probably better still, but that's not part of the big 3 American sports. It's the only one that hasn't completely dropped off. It's the only one that I'll turn on and like watch for a little bit. But the other 2, NFL and NBA, have become absolutely pathetic. NFL should just cancel it. It's just should be done. The flag football rules aren't bad. I don't mind that. It was a little bit more fun because it had a little bit more intrigue to me. But if we're being completely honest with ourselves, the NBA All-Star game has taken the biggest nosedive in professional sports. From what it was in the late 90s, early 2000s to even 2009 to what it's become. Team LeBron versus Team Giannis. Like, is this for real at this point? Like, I like the schoolyard rules when you used to pick people for like a year or so. It is completely fell off the face of the earth. They play zero defense. It's embarrassing to watch. Honestly, I can't stomach it anymore. So the baseball one I can stomach, right? The Nathan Eovaldi mic'd up strikeout was cool. I like that. I'm going to try to blow a fastball by him, and then he did. That was cool. But if we're being honest with ourselves, we've spent more time on the All-Star game and talking about it for 20 minutes than I think it deserves. I think that the All-Star games in all major sports have really fell off a cliff because athletes really just don't care. It's almost like a vacation game.
Okay, but the only rebuttal that I have for you is if this game was a game where you had your stars in it and it looked more like if it was a 6-5 game, would you have had more intrigue in it? Or
no.
Okay.
No. I don't care because they don't care. And that's what bothers me. And now baseball players care more than the other sports do. I'll be clear.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it just bothers me. They need to make it worth it, something, or else it's going to be shit, is what Tim Todd says. So he's agreeing with you, Cottrell.
I think that's the solution because, I mean, across all sports, money can't be the solution. You got to make them play for something. I get Shally's point. You don't want a Royals catcher.
Well, that's fine. So if you're going to do that, I don't need representation from every team.
Oh, 100%. I mean, we're on board there.
Give me the best players at every position. Facts. I don't care if you get an Oakland A in the game. I don't care if there's a Royal in the game. I don't care.
Facts. Hey, that solves it though. I think that, and again, baseball isn't to the extreme that these other sports are, but I'm all for that. I think that's the way to make the game perfect. You want the best players in the best game, and it means something.
I just want to go back to the Sandlot, y'all. That's what I want to do. But all right, let's move on. Done talking about this. UFC. We had a good pay-per-view card, a very good pay-per-view card, actually. It was 4 really solid fights, in my personal opinion. Yeah, I know there's 5 fights on the card. 4 very solid fights.
And if you watched even the prelims had a lot of great fights as well. So it was a very solid card for sure.
Well, first things first, I would like for you to acknowledge me. That's what I would like, Cottrell. I would like you to acknowledge me.
Acknowledge what?
I just want to acknowledge that how absolutely awfully wrong you are, sir. That's what I need from you right now on the show.
Okay. The fights that you picked the same guys that I did?
No. We talked about what fighter had the biggest chance to lose. I told you Volk was going to dominate, and I told you Duplessis had the best chance of beating Whitaker. Did Volk dominate? Did Duplessis beat Whitaker?
Didn't you pick Whitaker?
I did. I said Duplessis had the best chance of beating Whitaker.
So you want me to give you credit for picking a loser, but saying that the other guy lost the fight and you gave him a better chance? Is that what you're asking for here?
And am I getting credit then?
You should get credit because you said Brandon Moreno had the best chance of losing.
Yeah,
you should.
I'm not giving you guys. Damn it! I'm not giving any of you credit for picking losers. Nope.
I need you to acknowledge the tribal chief. I'm just kidding.
Hey, you went 1 and 2 on the card just like I did.
All right, listen. I went 1 and 1.5. You know, I would never really bet on Robert Whitaker. I just picked him because I felt right at the moment.
If you say so, buddy.
I couldn't believe Brandon. I thought Brandon Moreno was going to win that fight. But let's get into them one by one, right? Let's talk about them one by one. So let's start with the opening fight of the card. Bo Nickel absolutely trashed Val Woodburn. I get it. I understand. I understand that it was a guy that was thrown in 6 days ago. I understand he's now on the level of Bo Nickel. I understand he was one of the biggest favorites in UFC history. But I also understand that right hook is vicious. And to add a striking game to a guy that can wrestle and grapple like Bo Nickel, what?
Insanity.
Looks good. I mean, I don't think they're going to be able to put him in there too many times, without giving him somebody actually very legit soon. So, I mean, and he took literally 0 damage in that fight. I mean, he could fight next week if he wanted to. So,
did not get hit.
And no, so I think you'll probably see him on probably another card in the next. I mean, not the next one, but I mean, I think you're going to see him in the next month and a half. Probably, I think he'll fight again.
Yeah, I mean, I think the one cool thing is that I know for us that watched the Contender Series, you got to see Bo Nickel quite literally from day one to where he is now. And he's only had, 4 fights in the UFC at this point, but every single one of them, he's looked as dominant as can be. And they haven't gone to the second round. And the fact that, like you said, Gene, the fact that you see that he can strike like this, he can feint his punches, and he can get in that rhythm and really just knock you out or knock you down with that one punch, knowing how elite his wrestling is as well. That's a scary sight for that 185 division for sure. Of course, he has to get in there with a more seasoned striker, more seasoned wrestler. But I mean, if he keeps that pace up, I mean, I think you could see him climb the ranks as fast as Sean O'Malley did or as fast as Hamzat did. Like, he's been that dominant in his fights so far.
Well, he doesn't need too much to talk about. We talked about him already more than the fight actually happened. Let's talk about Robert Whitaker. Let's talk about Robert Whitaker falling off a damn cliff and getting knocked out by Dricus Duplessis. Cottrell texted me immediately, and said, Duplessis now has my respect.
Facts.
Acknowledge him. I'm done with the wrestling reference. I'm done.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, Duplessis, that fight, I mean, that fight showed you exactly who he is. The reason why I hadn't been a big fan of him is because it's not just that he's unorthodox. I think Izzy said it perfectly. He fights very ugly, but he's always finding ways to be successful. And because of that, no one really knows how to game plan for him. And you saw that against Robert Whittaker. Duplessis had a great game plan going forward. He wasn't afraid to stand there and strike with Robert. But then he also knew, if it came down to it and I had to get on top of him, I can as well. I also know they mentioned a great point on the broadcast as well, that he had like surgery on his nose and his tank has gotten even more expanded. And he even said post-fight that, he knew right away not to just jump on Robert Whittaker because he had him dazed, but to go in under control and things like that. So I got to give him all the credit in the world for, that's been one of the staples in the division. And for him to go out there and have that performance against Bobby Knuckles, you have to earn my respect.
All right, he's now Robert Whittaker. He's no longer Bobby Knuckles. When you get dropped in the second round and beaten like you stole something, you lose your nickname.
Hey, I saw Whiteman do it to Silva, and that's still Spider in my book. So
Spider earned that.
You call him gatekeeper now because that's where he's going.
Yes, yes. I'm here for the Robert Whittaker hate. I'm here for it.
I'm not going to hate him. Because I've been a fan of him for a while, but that's just where he's going to go. I couldn't even see a path back to with the way division stands now that he's getting another title shot, probably ever. So it's, he's had a hell of a career. It's just, is it the cliff? I don't know. But I think we're at least on the descent down the mountain. I don't know if he jumped off and just ended it, or if we're just slowly working our way down, but we're on the back end. You have to give him credit. He came out and he fought a good fight. Like Cottrell said, he didn't get anxious. He sat there and took what Robert gave him and just started picking him apart and then just landed the bomb. And that was it. So it's I wasn't fully aware of the personal beef between him and Izzy, but that's going to be an interesting build, man. Because that is some genuine hatred between those two. With you call somebody's upbringing and all that stuff into question. That's more than hyping a fight. That's personal stuff. So that will be, I think that's pretty much set in stone. That's what we're getting next in that division. Maybe get Whittaker, Bo Nickel. Who knows? That could be interesting. I don't think they throw him right in with Whittaker yet, but it could be.
Robert Whittaker doesn't deserve that. That's not right. Why are you going to do that to him?
You got to fight somebody. Listen, his days of
you don't want to fight him, fight a fighter that's literally on a downward trend.
It's a big name for Bo Nickel, though. It makes sense for Bo Nickel. Robert Whittaker probably doesn't want that fight, but no, he lost a lot of leverage. His days of probably demanding or sitting out for people, they are coming to an end quickly.
I'm not gonna lie to you. That could be a fight that makes a ton of sense for both of them. If you're Bo Nickel, you beat Robert Whittaker, that jumps you right on, right into that championship mix. And if you're Robert Whittaker and you beat Bo Nickel, it's like, hey,
put up the old.
There's a lot of eyes that are going to be on that fight, and it's like, all right, well, one way or another, one of these guys, Duplessis, Izzy has to lose. Maybe you could sneak in and get some extra fights in. So I think that makes a ton of sense.
If Whittaker could beat him, it turned, he's going to come on here and tell Gene, not so fast, my friend.
Oh, God, that would be terrible for me. I'm another Whittaker hater, so.
Found another trail heading back up to the top. So
what is it about him that you hate?
I don't know.
You've never answered that. That's true. Because I remember one of the first shows we ever did, he had a fight. And me and Cottrell picked him, and you just trashed him. But I don't think you've ever said why you hate him.
I think I homered one of his fights because I picked the other side, and I just didn't like him because of that. I don't know. There's nothing there's nothing I can give you a reason why I don't like him. I just don't like him.
Because he's not a bad dude either.
No. I don't say
he seems like
I don't dislike him as a human being.
I know,
dude,
but I'm saying he doesn't even give you that to be like,
I think
he's a good fighter, but he's a scumbag.
The other side, and I think that I was rooting against him, and it just
stuck.
stuck.
That's your fault.
Jesus.
I don't know. I'm just telling the truth. I don't know why.
That's fine. I mean, listen. If that's what it
root
is
for guys like Jorge Masvidal, he just disgusts me.
Why does he disgust you?
No, you for rooting for.
Why?
Because I mean, that's just the journeyman. I mean, that's the definition of journeyman.
You know what I really started really loving Jorge Masvidal? The Ben Askren knockout.
I get it.
That's when I hated Ben Askren, and the way he did it, and like the pre-fight to that, it made me a huge fan of him. I like fighters that are entertaining to me in that sense. I like the trash talk. I don't like Conor because he's a scumbag, but like I like the trash talk. I like the entertainment aspect of the fight. I get it. I should like more of the technical fighters, and I do. You guys remember I was a Lyoto Machida fan. Been a Lyoto Machida fan my whole life. Machida karate.
Cheetah karate, baby.
Yeah, his dad was.
I mean, Masvidal's not the best human being in the world, though. So I mean,
who?
Masvidal.
Oh, he's a great guy.
Sneaks up on people.
Yeah, sucker punches, doesn't pay for his kid. I mean, all the good things.
We gotta talk about the. So I wanted to listen. I know Bino's in the chat. Let's move up a little bit. He said something earlier, and I want to talk about this. Bino said Brandon Moreno won that fight. Now, before you guys comment, I want to tell you I scored the fight, and I'm very honest about this. I scored the fight 3-2. I had Moreno losing the fight, but I could understand a 3-2 scorecard for Moreno. Moreno outstruck him. He had more significant strikes. He had more headshots, which judges look at. Now, obviously, he was behind in the takedown and control. But I understood a scorecard that had it 3-2 Moreno. I didn't have it 3-2 Moreno. Even though I picked Moreno, I didn't have it 3-2 Moreno.
So I didn't get to watch it live like you guys did, but I agree wholeheartedly. If you want to argue with me that it's 3-2 Moreno, I'll entertain that all day. Like I think it's logical. I think you could. I won't agree with it, but I think you can make the point that that's what it was. 49-46. I don't know about all that.
That's what it is. Just don't feel my thunder, shall we? I was doing the interlude, the monologue. Listen, to score that fight, when I heard 49-46 Moreno, I was like, he should be fired immediately.
Fired? You should be put in jail.
Like, that was awful. You cannot score that 49-46. I actually could see 49-46 the other way for Pantoja.
Facts. I'm not going to lie to you. That's the way I scored the fight. I had 49-46 for Pantoja. The only round that I thought Brandon Moreno definitively won was the second round. I thought he bounced back well from what happened in the first round, but I gave rounds 1, 3, and 4 to Pantoja, and I didn't necessarily. Yes, the rounds were close, and I get it. Holistically, if you look at the numbers,
definitely on the fifth too. So he definitely on the fifth. So you're saying
correct. That's what I'm saying. Going into the fifth, I had him winning 1, 3, and 4, and I thought, clearly won the fifth as well. So I had it 49-46 for Pantoja. But the only thing that made this fight, I guess, a little bit different is we always have the adage, to be the champion, you have to beat the champion. Although I had it 49-46, this was a very close fight.
You mean beat the champion 3 times at this point?
No, facts.
Okay, so let's not pretend that Pantoja.
I'm saying because of how close the fight was, not just saying he hasn't done it already. I just think that this fight was particularly close. And I texted you guys right away. I said, Pantoja is about to steal the belt. And I said, I don't quite literally mean steal the belt, but this was a very close fight. But to me, Pantoja definitively won it.
100%. I agree with everything that you just said. I had it 48-47. The round I gave swing was round 4. I gave to Moreno. I had it 2 and 4 to Moreno, 1, 3, and 5 to Pantoja, and 1 would be the swing round, right? Like Pantoja definitively won 3 and 5. I don't think that's even close to argue, which is why I was so shocked. I'm like, which one did he give him? Like, which one did he give Moreno between 3? It couldn't have been 5. 5 was probably the most dominant round. Yeah. It had to be 3, and I don't know how you could watch that fight and have Moreno up 4-0 going into the last round. Like I was mind blown. I'm like, what? We were watching that fight at Adrian's house, like where we watch majority of our fights, and there's a group of us, and most people had it 49-46 Pantoja. Almost all of us did. I think somebody had 49-46. for Pantoja, but most people had 48-47. I'm okay with any of that. What I'm not okay with is a judge scoring that. I don't know what you're watching. You can't do that.
Agreed. No doubt about it.
No, because I mean, God forbid, like one of the other judges would have called it a draw or something, which was as close as that fight was, probably could have happened. Then now you've swung the complete outcome of, the fight. The outcome of the fight changes. Like it's that guy can't be allowed to judge MMA anymore. His name's Bill, like Colbert. Whatever the hell his name, Cartwright. I don't know what it is, but he cannot be allowed.
Cross,
please.
I think it's going to be really interesting because Amir Albazi has to be the next in line in that division. Am I right? You're not going to so in the flyweight division, who are you giving the next title fight to? Are you giving it to Divison? Figueiredo?
No, Figueiredo's trying to move up. I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
I think he moved up to 135 at this point. That division is so weird because if I'm Moreno, I'm like, I had to chase Figueiredo all these years. I get the belt. I defended it against him. I definitively won it. He didn't hold the belt for that long, but that division has been, I mean, for lack of better terms, a shit show. So if I'm Moreno, I'm like, give me a title shot. It was a split decision. Let's run it back. And I know it's our fourth fight, but shit, I just fought Figueiredo 4 times. So what's the difference?
I honestly think you're going to get Moreno. I think it makes sense. I don't know if anybody else is really ready or for lack of a better term, deserves to be there. The division it's in flux. It's Figueiredo moved up because the losing of the trilogy plus the one for Moreno. So he thought he had nowhere else to go, so he's moving up to 135. There's really no big names there.
That I disagree with.
Amir Albazi.
You got Albazi. You do have Kai Kara France. Only reason why Kara France,
he just beat the crap. He didn't beat the crap.
He almost lost. He barely won that fight.
I don't think he barely won that fight. It was a split decision, but I thought Albazi won the fight clearly.
Barely won the fight. I mean, listen, if they go Albazi, I'm not going to be mad. I think there's legitimacy to running Moreno back.
If I'm Moreno, I would say I have a stake at the belt, the title shot again. Split decision. I just lost the belt, and I fought Figueiredo 4 times. So don't use that as an excuse of we don't want to run this fight back a 4th time because clearly you didn't care last time. So if I'm Figueiredo, that makes sense there. Albazi, that makes sense too. And now that you have a new champion, I think Kai Kara France can kind of weasel his way in there. Obviously, not right away.
Yeah, I was gonna say, there's no way.
Not right away. No, yeah, not right away, but he's going to be in the mix, coming up.
Yeah, but he can't skip the guy that just beat him.
No. I'm just saying, Kai is the name though. Kai's a part of CKB, right. So he's there with Izzy, he's there with, Volt. So Kai is going to be in line for the belt, and the division stinks. So
well, speaking of,
that's going to be your top
you
guys.
Just brought up Izzy, and you reminded me, guys. We don't think that Duplessis has a chance of beating Izzy, right?
Absolutely not.
Just double checking. I wasn't a fan of. I thought it was a very bad promo that was cut after the fight.
Facts.
I wasn't a fan of the way Izzy handled himself. Just being clear. I think the promo can be cut a week afterwards, and they don't need that. They can have that stare down. Don't put mics in their faces. I don't need to hear a very, really, really tough. I'll leave it alone. I didn't like the way Izzy handled himself. I'm an Izzy fan.
I think that the way, and this doesn't even have to just do with Izzy, but the way the UFC has kind of been promoting these next fights where they have these guys come in the octagon afterwards, it's very WWE-esque, and they haven't had that happen before. And it's not like you need that because that press conference is going to be electric. That lead up is going to be electric. They have all these different, they have countdown, they have embedded. Like you can get tons of content without bringing those guys in the octagon and just letting them go at it on the mic. Regardless of how I feel about when Izzy was while he was in there, I thought it should have been Duplessis' moment. He just earned himself a title shot, and Izzy took over the mic, which is, I'm not mad at Izzy for doing that, but It should have been Duplessis' moment to, have a chance to talk his talk and, make his case for why. Clearly, there's no need for a case now because it's happening, but I just thought that took away from his moment.
Last fight I want to talk about tonight before we move on, before we get into our linebackers list, because that's coming up next, gentlemen. Football NFL is on the docket, and I got a surprise for you on my list. Promise you. But the last thing I want to talk about is how dominant the best fighter pound for pound in the world is. There's not a better fighter in the UFC than Volkanovski. I'm sorry. He's the best in the entire division. He's a small 145. The guy could probably get down to 135 if he had to.
He absolutely could not get down to 135.
He dominated Yair Rodriguez. Absolute destruction. Zero chance for the contender. He came in here with a perfect game plan. He's not going to stand and strike with Yair. Yair's a very dangerous striker. Takes him down and then catches him with the overhand right, follows it up. 1, 2, 3. I felt like I was watching a double WWE match, and I watched the finisher. Like, he hit him with the finisher, and it was it. He got on top, bang, bang, bang. Volkanovski dominated again. What's next for Volkanovski has to be a rematch versus Islam. I think he won the original fight. I had it 3-2 Volk. Once again, I'm okay if it was 3-2 Islam. I'm okay, but I want to watch it again. It was one of the best fights. The technical abilities between those two fighters, they're the best two in the world doing it right now. I want to watch those two fight again.
Yeah, and I think, Cool just made a great point as well. WWE was purchased by UFC's parent company, which is Endeavor. So, I guess that makes sense about why they were cutting promos like that, depending on who's in what building and things like that.
They were doing it before that, though.
It's become
more prevalent. This one jumped out this way because Izzy just took the mic and started talking. Like, that doesn't usually happen. It's usually somebody holding it, and the guys go back and forth, and they split them up, and then then we just wait for the official announcement, and then we get the shows and all that. Izzy just grabbed the mic and started chirping. So that's why this one was a little bit different. And I think that's more Izzy just being Izzy versus anything that's WWE related. But Volk was impressive. He put on a show, did Volk things. He hasn't had that lapse per se. He came in, he was sharp. Like Gene said, he had a really, really succinct game plan and didn't deviate from it because Yair couldn't do anything to make him deviate from it. Went in, got the job done, very workmanlike, knockout. Got to be Islam next. I don't think there's anything, I agree with Gene. I don't think there's anything you could sell me for Volk that's going to get me more excited than him versus Islam in the cage again.
Okay. Well,
so I was going to say, I agree with you guys. Volk dominant as ever. The one thing that kind of surprised me was him going in there with that game plan. Obviously, I know Volk can wrestle, and he has a very well-rounded game, but I was not expecting him to just go in there and that be his ultimate game plan. You've seen Volk strike with the best of the best. You've seen Volk go out there and be on the ground with guys like, T-City, Brian Ortega. And he just, whatever he's doing, he excels in it. So you got to give Volk all the credit in the world there. I think that the most interesting part about this fight between Volk and Yair was finally starting to open up, because Volk had kept the fight standing up in that third round. And then Volk just let him have it. And like you said, Gene, he hit him with the combo, got him down, and that was just a wrap from there. So give Volk all the credit in the world. The only reason why I think you may not see Volk versus Islam next is because Volk already mentioned that he wants to have surgery and get himself all prepared. I'd imagine that Islam's basically ready to go, and we could see Islam get thrown on the card at any point at this time. So at that point, you have Volk having surgery, and then you also have Islam being somewhat ready already. I just don't know when that timeline looks like where you can get a fight between those two outside of like 6 months away.
Okay. Any final UFC comments before we move into the linebackers list? Anyone in the chat? I would like to invite you to please post your list. I know you're going to disagree with our list, It's very natural. Everyone has a top 10 list. It's everyone's opinion. Let me remind you before we post them. These are projections for the upcoming season. This is not a lifetime achievement award. I think for once I have let, and I believe this, I truly believe this in my heart. My projections, I normally try to keep them to the best 10 players in the league at their position. I try to be able to back it up with stats instead of opinions and thoughts. I'm taking a guy that did not start an NFL game yet and putting him in my top 10. Let me repeat that for a minute. I'm taking a guy that has not started an NFL game yet, and I'm putting him in my top 10 list for projections this year. Without further ado, Cottrell, show him the list.
All right, let me know if it's showing up on the feed.
Well, the feed is now active and it's showing up perfectly. Here's the list. Let's go through it. Let's think about it. Let's look at it. I'm interested. This is interesting. Okay. We don't have anything crazy. There's nothing absolutely insane on the list as far as I don't see our lists are pretty. I have one that's pretty insane, I guess. Okay, let's get rolling. Cottrell, start us off.
So my number 10 is a guy who really, I don't want to say he just bust on the scene, but he's coming off of his best year to date, and that's Matt Milano. So Matt Milano, Buffalo Bills linebacker. He's a converted safety. And so the one thing about Matt Milano that kind of gave him some issues to begin with is the fact that he wasn't a run fill linebacker. You know, with him being a safety, he was more so a coverage guy. But this past year, he has not been afraid to stick his nose, you know, where it doesn't belong. So that's ultimately why he made the list for me. He's a great blitzing linebacker, and now he does fit the run game as well. So I think Matt Milano is very talented, especially in that Buffalo Bills scheme. And so that's why he's coming in at number 10 for me.
Okay.
Number 10 for me, I have Nick Bolton from Kansas City. Guy kind of burst on the scene last year, was a second-round pick. Didn't really have the fanfare as, you know, some of the other guys that came out in his draft at the linebacker position. A lot of that had to do because he went to Missouri. He didn't go to Alabama or Georgia or one of the big schools like that. Guy had 180 combined tackles last year. Had a great Super Bowl, unfortunately, against the Eagles. Scored a touchdown, had a sack, had a bunch of tackles. Great young player, just getting better. I think he'll continue to climb up this list. Everybody knows who he is now. He's a big-time player. That's why I made my list. He starts me off at number 10.
To remind everyone, I just got a question. Somebody asked, where's Micah Parsons? Micah Parsons will be on our edge rushers list next week. This is just linebackers, 4-3 linebackers, not 3-4 edge. TJ Watt, Micah Parsons will all be on next week's list. So if you're reading this and thinking that we don't know what we're talking about, that's okay. We have a Matt Milano stan.
Also, we have 3-4 inside linebackers on this list too. Just
correct.
To clarify with you guys.
All right, so I know I'm going to get crap for this one. I understand. I've been a fan of him, and I'm very, very I regard of him very highly. If you listen to all Philadelphia Eagles players, Jalen Carter said it best. He got drafted. I get to go play with big bro Nakobe Dean. Jordan Davis. I'm coming to Philly to go play with Nakobe Dean. Nakobe Dean is, in my opinion, oh man, this is going to come off really wild. I liken him, and I can't say that this is might as well just say it. I think he's the next coming of Bobby Wagner. I really believe that, and I think the Eagles for the next 10, 15 years. His instincts are great. He hits the hole great. He's a very intelligent linebacker. His first step is great. Just go back and watch the Georgia versus Michigan game. Listen, Michigan had one of the best running back prospects in the league. He ran a wheel route. I show this when I'm looking at his tape. Nakobe Dean's lined up on the other side in man-to-man coverage, and he runs a wheel route, and Nakobe Dean crosses across the field and stops him behind the line of scrimmage. The guy's instincts are incredible, and they don't always show up on tape. national championship. Actually, sorry, college football semifinal. No, college football SEC championship game. Georgia was playing against Alabama. They stopped them on a 4th down. Quay Walker was out of position. Nakobe Dean shoves him after the play and goes, "You needed to be there." The rest of the Georgia defense is going nuts. Nakobe Dean said, talking about a player missing the assignment. Born leader. I have Nakobe Dean on my list, and I think he could be higher. Matt Milano is my number 9. Matt Milano, to me, is going to be a very, very good blitzing linebacker. I think he's going to be able to get up to quarterback, and he's also a very good coverage linebacker. He does both things well. I just think that he ends up getting a little bit lost in the run game as a whole, but I love Matt Milano. That's why I have him at number 9.
Number 9, I have Dre Greenlaw from San Francisco. Crazy to say. He's on this list at number 9, and he's not even the best linebacker on his team. Only at number 9 because he's only really played one full season. Missed most of his rookie year, 2021. Last year had 127 tackles, 2 fumble recoveries, interception, 6 passes deflected. Kid's an athletic freak. Gets to play, next to a guy we're going to all talk about shortly on, debatably the best defense, top to bottom in the league. Dude has great instincts, great athleticism, really good against the pass. Kind of like Nick Bolton. Everybody knows who he is now. Sky's the limit for this kid. He's another one I expect to continue to climb up this list over the next couple of years. Super high ceiling for him. So number 9 for me.
Number 9 for me is a name that's going to probably shock a lot of people that he's this low, but I got Levante David. So the reason why I have Levante David this low is not because I don't think he's going to have a productive season. I mean, I still think he's a top 10 linebacker. I just think this is going to be the year where we start to see some regression from him. I think that Buccaneers team, I just don't see it being as good as they have been in years past. Clearly, they still don't have a quarterback. I think that defense is going to be on the field a lot more. But Levante David is still super talented. I just see him taking a little bit more of a dive from the Levante David that we're used to seeing. I'm constantly seeing, really the past 3, 4, 5 years, he's been in the discussion of top 5 linebackers in the NFL. So I just think he takes a small step back this year, and that's why he's coming in at number 9 for me.
I just need you to repeat that entire thing when I get to my number 8.
We're just reversed. That's all. It's the exact same thing. They're the same age going into the year. They'll be 34 before years in. It's just, hey, you see it differently than I do. That's all. Now, number 8 for me, I got a guy who's consistently been one of the best coverage linebackers in the NFL, but statistically, he just hasn't been where he was at a few years ago, and that's Eric Kendricks. I think Eric Kendricks getting a fresh start with the Chargers is going to be very, very good for him. I think he's going to be going to that Chargers team that's super talented. I think you could argue they're top 3, top 4 talented defense, in the NFL. And I think him going over there with those great pass rushers in front of him, he has the great coverage behind him as well. I think he's going to be able to go there, be instinctive, and things are going to be opened up for him. He won't have to, be behind a D-line that's not getting penetration and things like that, like how he was in Minnesota. So I think him getting a fresh start and him being in that Chargers system where he can, he has great players everywhere around him. I think he'll have a great upcoming season.
I think the one great thing about this list, I'm looking at them like we pretty much all have the same guys, but in some kind of different order, which is, common for other ones. The linebackers especially, though, this list probably has the biggest mix of up-and-comers and old guys that are still just getting it done. I think there's more probably guys over 30 on this list than there will be in any other position minus the quarterback list. But just an interesting observation. Number 8 for me, I have Tremaine Edmonds. Again, another young kid, just like, the other 2 guys at the bottom of my list. Only 25 years old. Used to play for Buffalo. Signed a big free agent contract this year to go to Chicago with that team that they're rebuilding. Had 102 tackles last year, and that was missing 4 games for Buffalo. Still led the team in tackles. Had an interception, 1 sack, 1 fumble recovery. Kid is very, very good against the pass underneath in the zone. Getting better against the run. I think going to Chicago where he can be the leader of the defense, the undoubted leader of that defense, will be good for him. I think it was a good move for him. Buffalo decided to keep Matt Milano. So I think he's going to be a big part of that Chicago team rebuilding. He's going to be the leader of the defense, and they got Justin Fields on offense. That team's hoping to get better and get better quick the next 2 years. So again, another kid, only 25 years old. I think he has a high ceiling. I don't think he's had his best year yet. So number 8 for me.
All right. Well, my number 8 is Bobby Wagner, and nothing against Bobby Wagner, but I thought we saw a real regression from him last year. I think that last year, now was it LA or was it Bobby Wagner? He's 33 years old. He with a defense that had Aaron Donald, Bobby Wagner, and Jalen Ramsey on it, you would never have thought that defense would have failed so often. Could it be the coordinator? Could it be the coach putting him in the wrong position? He's back in Seattle this year. He's number 8 for me. I think that it's a little bit of both. I think Bobby Wagner comes back, has a very good bounce back year. I also think that he's definitely regressed a little bit. He'll be 34 during the season. He's 33 years old now. And it's nothing bad. I just think he takes a step back. I think he already did take a step back. I think what you've seen last year is what you'll see more of this year. Number 7 for me is Devondre Campbell. Now, I noticed that Bill doesn't have his on his list, and Cottrell has him higher than me. So I understand that I'm kind of in between here. I think Devondre Campbell is an absolute stud from the Green Bay Packers. I think last year he had a little bit of an off year, just personal opinion. I think this year he makes a huge bounce back. I think that Packers defense is going to be sneaky good. They have a lot of first-round talent with Lucas Van Noy. They just drafted in the first round. And I think Devondre Campbell has a great year. So I have him at number 7.
Number 7 for me, I have Matt Milano, the Buffalo Bills. This is the guy they decided to keep. Gave him an extension last year. Played 15 games, 99 combined tackles, 1.5 sacks, 3 interceptions, career high, 11 passes defended. Gene already mentioned this when he went over them. Very good against the pass, good at covering tight ends, running backs out of the backfield, and he's good at blitzing, attacking the quarterback. If he has one weak spot where he needs to get better, it's against the run. But he's a guy that's continued to show improvement. Buffalo is a very good defense, especially, with the guys that he has playing behind him. It allows him the freedom to really, to kind of almost be a spy or have the freedom where doesn't have to play a certain spot all the time. Buffalo moves him around a lot. His versatility is what gives him a lot of value. He's athletic. He's just another smart football player. Just needs to get a little bit better against the run. A guy that I still think is on the rise, though. Another guy that I don't think he's had his best season yet. So I have Matt Milano at number 7.
My number 7 is a guy that Bill had mentioned already, and that's Dre Greenlaw of the San Francisco 49ers. I don't know if this is a bold statement. I don't know if this is the consensus, but I'm going to go out there and say it. Dre Greenlaw is the best coverage linebacker in the NFL. He's another guy that's a converted safety that's playing linebacker right now. And, he has that luxury of being next to Fred Warner and being a part of that phenomenal 49ers defense. There's so much talent on that team. They make his job so easy. And the fact that he can cover so much field with what he does, he's so valuable for that team. He's super talented. He's a super talented guy. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised, I don't know what his contract situation looks like, but I wouldn't be surprised if in the future, when that time came, he tried to go to another team and they potentially moved him to middle linebacker because he is that talented. So I'm rolling with Dre Greenlaw as my number 7. My number 6 is a guy that Gene just mentioned. That's Devondre Campbell. While I'm not as high on the Green Bay defense as Gene is, I love what Devondre Campbell does. Being an inside linebacker in that 3-4 system, I just think his instincts are great. He is good against the run. He is good against the pass as well. I love what he does. He's a young player. I just have him at number 6. It's not a talent thing. For me, it's just I don't think that he's going to be a part of a great defense. So I think he's going to be working a little bit harder. We're going to see him, for lack of better terms, get it out the mud a little bit more this year. But I love Devondre Campbell, and that's why he's coming in at 6 for me.
Can I stop? Sure. For 1 second? I don't mean to do this. I just want to say it out loud. What about the Green Bay defense do you think is not going to be great?
I don't like their pass rush up front.
So is it Devontae Wyatt that you don't like? Is it Kenny Clark in the middle? Like, what do you not like?
I mean, you said guys that are underwhelming to me.
Devontae Wyatt's underwhelming to you?
mean, he's fine. I know you won't have him in your top 10 when come defensive line list time.
No, definitely won't. But it's okay. You have Preston Smith, Devondre Campbell, Quay Walker, first-round draft pick, which I don't agree with. I think that he's more of a second. You're right. I'm with there. Rashawn Gary is still on that team. They have the best coverage linebacker in football. I mean, best coverage cornerback in football.
Correct.
I don't know how you don't think that Packers defense is going to be good. Lucas Van Ness, was just drafted by them.
Not a huge fan of him either.
I didn't like that.
Noticed that
I didn't like that pick at all for them.
I liked it a lot.
I don't know where they get pass rush from. Rashawn Gary is a great player. I love Rashawn Gary, but outside of that, I don't know where they get pass rush from. And them being in that 3-4 system, I don't love the guys that they have. I think Devondre Campbell's job is going to be very hard, especially in coverage, because he's going to be covering a lot longer than he had been in years past, like when they had Zadarius Smith and some of these other guys. So I just think the Packers defense will be underwhelming, and you're also going to see them on the field a lot more this year because Jordan Love is not going to be leading crazy drives all season.
I think Green Bay's defense is going to be one of those defenses that has like crazy splits. I think you're going to see like in the first half of every game, they probably keep that team in a lot of games. And then I think in the third or fourth quarter, you're going to see as they're on the field for their 430th snap of the game that their numbers are going to start going down because Jordan Love can't keep the offense in the game. I don't think they're going to be bad though. I think they're going to be a solid unit. I think they're absolutely going to keep Green Bay in games. Down the stretch though, I think they're going to get tired and I think they're going to start to struggle.
Okay, I just giving my opinion there.
I know you're a big Jair guy though.
I like what Green Bay's doing defensively, and I think Jordan Love is going to be better than a lot of people give him credit. I really do. I think the Packers are going to be good this year. Maybe I'm on a lonely island. I don't know.
For what it's worth, I think the Packers finish in last place in that division.
Okay, I'll take that bet.
That's interesting. That'll be a fun one. Number 6, I got Demario Davis. Just kind of one of the first like OGs I got on my list. He's in his year 33. Had 109 still combined tackles last year. Very, very, very smart instinctual linebacker. Set a career high at his age 33 years, 6.5 sacks, had an interception, 6 passes deflected. Plays on a very, we talk about New Orleans defense a lot, a very aggressive unit. Played for Dennis Allen for a long time now. Hasn't regressed whatsoever. And he lands firmly smack dab in the middle of my list. I think he has another great year. They have a lot of talent on that defense. We talked about Lattimore. We've talked about Honey Badger. There's talent everywhere on that defense. I don't think that unit's going to regress whatsoever, and I don't think he's going to either. So I think he has another great year. His age 34, and I think he earns a spot on these top 10 lists. I have a number 6.
I really wanted to put this guy higher. And now looking at Cottrell's list, he doesn't even have them. Looking at Bill's list, he has him number 8. I wanted to put Tremaine Edwards top 5. I really did. If you were building a linebacker in a factory, and we're like, what do you want? You want quickness, you want size, he signed so Matt, let me just break this down a little bit. We can agree that Shaquille Leonard is one of the best linebackers in football for the last 6-7 years, right? Is that fair?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Who was his defensive coordinator when he was on the up and up? Bears head coach Matt Eberflus. That was his defensive coordinator. Who's the head coach? Chicago Bears, Matt Eberflus. I'm not a big fan of Eberflus to begin with, but what I am a fan of is his defense. And I think that as a whole, I think that they signed Tremaine Edwards to this massive contract over there in Chicago to bring him in to be the staple of that defense. In Buffalo, he was lost with Matt Milano there. He was lost in the scheme. I think Tremaine Edwards walks into Chicago and becomes the next Roquan Smith in Chicago. I really believe it. I love Tremaine Edmonds this year, and I think he ends up being better than I actually ranked him. My number 5 is Levante David. If I could redo this right now, I might swap Levante David and Tremaine Edwards. I agree with a lot of what Cottrell said. I think that he does take somewhat of a step back. He is a little older. I think the Buccaneers defense as a whole is going to be bad this year. He's just too talented for me to drop him down too far. He's been at the top of his game for year after year after year. This is where me not allowing my projections to surpass what I've seen on the football field for years and years. So I have Levante David number 5, but in your head, know that I think Tremaine Edmonds has a better season.
So this one was tough for me. Number 5, Shaquille Leonard. He is still to this day, a non-Eagle. He's one of my favorite players in the league. He's missed a lot of time the last 2 years. The guy, when he's on the field, is an absolute wrecking ball. Leads the league in forced fumbles almost every year. He's 110, 120 plus tackle guy. A little bit undersized for the position. Now he's dealing with a little bit of nerve damage after coming back, pretty much getting a rebuilt ankle. I didn't know where to put him. I couldn't leave him off the list. I didn't want to put him too high because of my personal bias for him. So I put him in the middle because I do think he has a better year this year. I think he can stay healthy and stay on the field. And if he does, he's an absolute turnover machine. He'll force fumbles. He'll get sacks, strip sacks. He'll intercept the ball once in a while. The dude is a beast, and he's a great leader. I love everything about the guy. So I got Shaquille Leonard number 5 for me.
Speaking of great leaders, I think that's the perfect way to describe the guy I got at number 5, and that's Demario Davis. I mean, he's the heart and soul of that New Orleans team. Yes, you could argue that there's guys on that team that are more talented than him. You got your Cam Jordans, your Marshawn Lattimores, but undoubtedly Demario Davis is the heart of that team. No matter what, if Demario Davis is out there on the field, he's giving it everything that he has, and he's a great instinctual football player. I think at this point in his career, it's kind of weird for Demario Davis because I'd say about 6-7 years ago, he probably wasn't a top 5 linebacker in the NFL. So the fact that he's gotten there by playing this long, and it seems like he's just been consistent towards the back half of his career, has been very impressive. And again, like Bill mentioned earlier, him being a part of this Dennis Allen scheme that he has been in so long, I think he's comfortable there. He's has such a familiarity there as well. I just think that he has another phenomenal year, and we don't see that drop off from him this upcoming season. Number 4 is a guy that Bill had just mentioned as well, Shaquille Leonard. I hate to just piggyback off of Bill's points, but this was the guy that was kind of the hardest to rank on this list because of the injury that he just had to go through. Normally, people come back from injuries all the time and are right back to where they need to be. With this being a lower extremity injury for him, and the fact that he just moves the way he moves around the field and things like that, I just didn't know where to properly rate him. So if he gets back to being the Shaquille Leonard of old, I wouldn't even be surprised if he was at number 1 on this list. But just because he is that talented, but because of that uncertainty for me, that's ultimately why he fell at number 4.
So number 4 for me, I got Levante David. Both you gentlemen have already talked about him. I don't think he slowed down. I think it's crazy to say that, I think we kind of all agree maybe he regressed a little bit last year. He's still at 125 or 124 combined total.
I don't think he regressed at all. The reason I have him on my list where I have him is because I think Tampa Bay is going to suck.
Yeah, I mean, I think Tampa Bay is going to have an abysmal year. But, that being said, he is still playing for Todd Bowles, who is one of the best defensive minds in the game. He's still a leader of that defense. Physically, you can still do it. And I just think our expectations and our level of where we think he should be all the time is just so high that maybe he doesn't reach it all the time. But that being said, I don't, looking back at what he did last year, I don't see it yet. I don't think he's at that cliff. Maybe he is, maybe he's not, but I don't think he is this year. So I have him number 4. I still think he's one of the best linebackers in the game.
I have Demario Davis number 4. This is probably the only New Orleans Saint that I will overrank than you guys. I'm always a New Orleans Saint hater. Listen, you guys, they said it, right? I'm a hater on a lot of things. I hate on things. New Orleans Saints are one of those teams. I can't hate on Demario Davis. The guy is a leader. He understands the defensive scheme that he's in. He has shown no signs of slowing down. That Saints defense is in a division with the Tampa Bay Bucks that are going to have a quarterback competition between Kyle Trash, yeah, I said Trash, and Baker Mayfield. They're going to have a rookie in Bryce Young in Carolina, And the worst quarterback in the NFL, Desmond Ridder, will all be in the same division. So, yeah, I think 6 games, DeMario Davis can put himself and catapult himself into the top 4. Not to mention, I think if you're drafting defenses in fantasy football, go draft the Saints just because of this. But I like DeMario Davis. I got DeMario Davis number 4. He's a leader. He understands the scheme, and he's great on both sides of the ball. He tacks the run. He's good in pass coverage, and he can get after the quarterback. For number 3, I got Shaquille Leonard. You guys have said it right? Like, I'm just a fan. I can't lie to you. I'm just hoping the nerve damage heals properly. There's still no timetable for his return. He could be a lot lower on this list. He might not even start week 1. We're hoping he does. Shaq Leonard, watching him play linebacker for the last 5 years, I just fell in love with the way he plays the position. I love the way he attacks the football. I love the leadership skills. I love his gap positioning, and I love him in coverage. So I have him number 3 with the hopes that he comes back fully healthy, and it's exactly what I expect him to be.
So number 3, I have Bobby Wagner. I'm going to disagree with my co-host here with Gene and saying they had a bad year last year. I think he was the anchor and the best player on a terrible defense. He set career highs for 6.5 sacks and 2 interceptions. He had 140 combined tackles. He now has all 11 years in the league with at least 104 tackles. I don't think the man's regressed at all. I think, if anything, he played just as well last year that he has the 2 previous years. I don't think he's going to put up, Legion of Boom type numbers on a great defense, because that's not the defense he was on last year. But I think as a individual player, I don't think Bobby Wagner has regressed at all yet or hit the old stage of his career. I think he has another monster year. Like Gene said, back in Seattle on a young, hungry defense. I think he puts up more monster numbers this year. I don't think Bobby Wagner's anywhere close to emptying the tank yet. I think he's got a decent amount left there. Number 3 for me.
So while I it's funny because I also have Bobby Wagner at 3, but I agree with both of you guys at the same time, and I'm going to be the perfect blend here. So I do think that we are not quite at Bobby Wagner being over the hill, but I think to Gene's point, Bobby Wagner isn't first team All Pro from 2015 Bobby Wagner still. And that's not saying that he's not still playing at a high level, but that Bobby Wagner was on another planet. And so if you want to say he peaked because he's not that anymore, then I can agree with you there. But I think Bobby Wagner going back to Seattle and being a part of that Seahawks team with Pete Carroll makes a ton of sense. You have the familiarity with Pete's system, and that Seahawks team is very, very good. So I think Bobby Wagner is going to have another phenomenal season, and that's ultimately why he came in at number 3 for me. Now, my number 2 is a guy that's unfortunately in my division, Roquan Smith. Roquan Smith, super talented, a part of that great Ravens scheme. He can do it all. I mean, if it wasn't for the guy at 1, there's no doubt in my mind that he'd be the best linebacker in the NFL. Roquan Smith is, great in coverage. He fits the run. He flies all over the field. And there's a reason why the Baltimore Ravens paid him $100 million at linebacker. So Roquan Smith falling at number 2 for me.
Number 2, I have Roquan Smith as well. Dude's an animal. Chicago let him go for a bag of peanuts pretty much because he didn't want to stay there. Baltimore was more than happy to oblige. Whopping 169 combined tackles last year, career high in tackles, had 4.5 sacks, 3 interceptions, and he's on a more talented team now in Baltimore. That defense, if they can stay healthy this year, they have a bunch of big name guys on that team. Both up front, both out back. They could be a very, very, very good team, very good defense. Cottrell will probably be able to tell you all about him by the end of the year. So. I think physically, I think he's everything you want in a guy. I think he's hungry in Baltimore. Like Cottrell said, he just got paid. He's got his contract secure now. He can just go out and play football. And that's a dangerous predicament for opposing offenses. So I have Roquan number 2, just not quite number 1, but I expect him to have a monster year.
I want to go back to last year's linebacker show. I've already told you on multiple occasions, I can tell you when I'm wrong. Last year, I had Roquan Smith number 4. By far the highest rated of our 3 lists. One guy had him at number 8. One guy had him at number 9. I had him number 4 because I know what Roquan Smith is and his ability. This year, I struggled not to put him number 1. If we want to talk about Tremaine Edmonds being built in a lab to play linebacker position, Roquan Smith is that on steroids. The guy is quick, strong, instinctual, and in my opinion, if it wasn't for Fred Warner playing on a D'Amico Ryans-led defense last year, and Fred Warner's great. Fred Warner on my list last year was number 3, right? And we had Micah Parsons on our linebackers list last year because he was playing both. So really number 2. Roquan Smith is just everything that you want a linebacker to be. Love him. Huge fan. That's why he's number 2. Number 1 for me is Fred Warner, though. And to look at that San Francisco 49ers defense is like, I want them to take a step back. I don't like the 40 whiners. There's 40 of them. They're all whiners. Crybabies. I'll get into another one of those crybabies later on in the show. I want their defense to take a step back. D'Amico Ryans is down in Houston. So, yeah, their defense is definitely going to take a step back. No, it's not, because they hired Steve Wilkes to be their defensive coordinator, who's an absolute monster on the defensive side of the ball also. Fred Warner is the leader of one of the most talented defenses in football. Statistically, he's great. He's in every gap. He's all over the field. Fred Warner is my number 1.
I have Fred Warner as number 1 as well. Gene hit on some of the accolades already. He is their captain. He is their leader. 130 tackles last year, 10 passes defended. The guy's a freak athlete. I'm sure we've all seen the viral clip of him, coming out of his own blitz on one side of the formation and then running down the seam on the other side and covering CeeDee Lamb and breaking up the pass. Dude's running with one of the fastest wide receivers in the league. Good against the run, can blitz. Has no problem, obviously, playing a coverage, covering tight ends, wide receivers, whoever it is. He is. There's no knock on his game. There's nothing you can do to watch him on tape and say he doesn't do this well. He does everything exceptionally well, and that's what has him number 1 for me. He has no weakness in his game. He's young, still getting better. It's only going to be his 4th year in the league, I think. Interesting to see how Steve Wilkes is going to use him. That was a good point Gene brought up as well. He went from D'Amico Ryans, which is a very aggressive and type attacking defense. Be curious to see how Steve Wilkes uses all the pieces that he has, but I don't think Fred Warner takes a step back at all. So I have him number 1. I think he's the best all-around linebacker in football.
Well, just to be clear, Steve Wilkes is a blitzing defensive coordinator too. He runs almost everything out of the nickel, which means you're going to see just Fred Warner and Drake Greenlaw on the field almost every play. So I think Fred Warner is in for just as good of a year because they're both aggressive and they've literally found the perfect decoy. I hate saying that. They added Javon Hargrave to that defense. Javon Hargrave is going to play up front. That 49ers defense is disgusting.
Yeah, and I think that's the key point that you hit on, Gene. Obviously, that 49ers defense had been incredible, but you add Javon Hargrave up to that front 4 next to Eric Armstead and Nick Bosa, and you get Fred Warner to fill those holes. That's what's going to make you that number 1 guy on this list for me. Fred Warner already was a super talented linebacker. He already had all the intangibles. But him playing in that system just magnifies it like times 10. So I just don't see, as much as I like Roquan Smith as well, I just don't see a way that Fred Warner's not on top of this list, because him being in San Francisco in a great scheme with all these great players around him. I mean, you saw it with their safety. Names escape me right now. Hufanga.
Yeah.
They let those guys play so freely in San Francisco, and they're so instinctive. That's the kind of guy you want on the field in that system. Fred Warner's that kind of guy. So number one for me, and I don't see a way, barring injury, that he's not number one at the end of this upcoming season.
My man Rod Isaac said something earlier in the list, and I need to call you out, friend. You're my friend. I'm cool with you. Part of Sports Empire Network. We're good, Rod. I hope you're still listening. But for you to ask why there's no Patriots on the list, either you just forgot that we're doing Matthew Judon as part of the edge rushers, or you really think Jawan Bentley or Jahani Tave deserves to be a top 10 linebacker in the league, saying we're tripping for not having a Patriot on the list. That's homerism at its finest, my friend. Please list your list and show me what Patriot you'd have in on this list. I would love to know.
Josh Uche at what,
on,
5?
Man.
Come on.
Just saying. I call people out when I see it. Nothing bad.
Speaking of homerism, we're going to do edge rushers next week. Gene, what is the over under? I'll go 2.5 over under on the number list where who puts Myles Garrett.
He'll have Myles Garrett 2 behind Micah Parsons.
I agree. I
already know that. And if he has Myles Garrett 1, I'm ending the show. I will hit end stream. And we will not record that night. And that's okay. I don't mind Myles Garrett being there. Myles Garrett's incredible. Let's just call a spade a spade. Myles Garrett's incredible. We're going to do edge rusher / defensive line next week. It'll be a full defensive line list. Now,
mixed list is fun.
Granted, there's not many interior defensive linemen that will be on the list. But hey, you never know. Gene might throw a rookie on there. Jalen Carter might make my list.
You never know.
I'm kidding. Guys, you guys know this. I said this before he was drafted, and he ended up going to the Eagles. I have a love affair for Nakobe Dean. I love the way he plays the game. I've watched more tape, more scouting, more film on that kid playing football than any other player in the NFL. I have a love affair with the guy. Logan Wilson. That's a good one. It's a good name. I don't disagree with the. He's definitely.
Though, man.
I get it. He's underrated, though. He's right. I don't disagree.
He's underrated. I mean, but he's nowhere near this list, though.
That I disagree with. I think I had Logan Wilson either 10 or he was my honorable mention from last year's show. Logan Wilson's very good out there in Cincinnati. Again, I get to see him twice a year, and I get to see him, do what he does. He's great in coverage. He's very instinctual as well. I wouldn't be surprised at all if Logan Wilson's the top 10 linebacker on our list next year.
I don't disagree with you. I think he's underrated. I don't have him as high as you do.
I agree he's underrated. I don't have him as high as that either.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure last year I had him like 11.
I wasn't fighting to find a spot for Logan Wilson, if I'm being honest. If I was going to put anybody number 10 over Nakobe Dean, it would have been Dre Greenlaw. He was the first one off my list. All right, well, that's it for linebackers. Any final comments on the list? Anybody can post their own list. I love hearing them. Guys, when we all see the list, when we talk about wide receivers, running backs, quarterbacks, that's when we start seeing the list in the chat. And I understand some of this material might be over some people's heads. I get it. I know that, I can see a noticeable drop off, but we try to provide good, educated content every week. I know that there's a lot of podcasts out there that will give you the shock effect. And is Dame Lillard getting traded once a week? And we're not doing that. We're going to give you the up-to-date news. We're going to give you our real list. We're going to do a deep dive. I talked to Cottrell yesterday. I put a preliminary list up. Then I spent an hour researching the list and editing the names and seeing where to put them. I take these lists seriously, and you can tell by the stats that Shally brings to the table that he does also. And we look at them year over year. I have my list last year. I want to read it to you guys, just because
I keep all my lists. I've kept all my baseball lists and all my football lists.
My list for last year, I had Devin White number 10, Demario Davis number 9, which was a mistake. He played way better than number 9. Levante David number 8, Bobby Wagner 7. Devondre Campbell, who I've been high on now for 2 years, 6. Eric Kendricks definitely took a drop off. Eric Kendricks fell off. He's a coverage linebacker. Roquan 4, Fred Warner 3, Shaq Leonard 2, and then Micah Parsons 1. And that was last year when Micah Parsons was listing himself inside and edge. So we decided to include him on the linebackers list because he was playing middle for Dallas also. But if we're calling it like it is, it's my list last year was pretty solid. Take Eric Kendricks out. I had 9 out of the top 10 linebackers in football. Shaq Leonard got hurt. Yeah, we can't predict that. But I take the list seriously and I keep them.
I had Kendricks 10 and Edwards 9, Demario Davis 8, Levante Davis 7, Bobby Wagner 6, Devin White 5, Roquan Smith 4, Fred Warner 3, Micah 2, and I actually had Leonard 1 last year.
And then I had Miles Jack at 10, Devondre Campbell at 9, Eric Kendricks at 8, Roquan Smith at 7, Devin White at 6, Demario Davis at 5, Fred Warner at 4, Bobby Wagner at 3, Darius Leonard at 2, and then Micah Parsons at the top of the list.
Solid list. Guys, if you look at what happened, thank you, Sagan. I appreciate that. So that's why I rock with you guys. When you look at those lists from last year, guys, I have them all, right? I have every single list I did, and I keep up with them, and I see how I do. Last year, my biggest miss was AJ Terrell. I had him number 2, and he had an off year for Atlanta. But other than that, I had Patrick Surtain a year before he blew up, Denzel Ward, Xavier Howard, Marlon Humphrey, Tre'Davious White, who was hurt, Marshawn Latimer, Slay, I had 5, which people gave me crap for, finished 4, J.C. Jackson, who got hurt, Jalen Ramsey, AJ Terrell, and Jair Alexander, who's my absolute love at Fest. He can stay number 1 on my list. But, guys, I go through these lists, and I really take my time with them. And if you go back and look at last year, what did I miss on? AJ Terrell? Like, that's where I missed.
I had him 4. Kenny Moore, Xavier Howard, Tre'Davious White, Slay, Ward, Lattimore, Terrell, J.C. Jackson, Jair, Jalen.
I don't have my corners list in front of me. I just remember having AJ Terrell at 10, and I got a lot of crap for it.
You did from me. You were right. Listen, and guys, listen, see, this is the one thing that you'll never notice, right? Cottrell will never give me my roses and say he was wrong and I was right. Like he had Roquan 7 last year, right?
And what did you do? And what did you do? The first thing you did when you talked about Roquan today was, yeah, so this guy had him 7 and this guy had him 6. You couldn't wait to throw that in.
Because I was right. I was right.
I was right about AJ Terrell. See,
you were right.
Same thing.
You were absolutely right. See? AJ Terrell, and I'm not saying AJ Terrell's not a top 5 corner.
Super talented guy.
Yeah. I think he's a top 5 corner in football.
Yeah.
I just think that he's on an Atlanta defense that really just is not conducive to cornerback play.
Facts. That's why we were all the same on him last week.
I have fun with these lists. I appreciate everybody tuning in and listening to them. I got one more thing we got to talk about before we get into You Got to Be Kidding Me. It looks like it might be a little early night tonight. We're done before 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
The NBA in-season tournament. Before I give you my opinion on it, I'd love to hear you guys' opinion on it. The in-season tournament, they released the brackets and which teams are going to – Charlie, I know you're not up on this. Have you seen the
I've seen them not up. I've seen all this junk.
You're not an NBA guy like me and Cottrell are.
It's not my favorite. No, I mean out of the big 4. Well, if you're going out of the big 3, it's 3 for me. But I mean, I still follow it. I'm just not in love with it. I just certain parts of it I like, certain parts I don't.
Okay, so in-season tournament. At first thought, let me stop. Shally, start us off. Tell me what your thoughts are on it. If you're excited for it, if it intrigues you, good idea, bad idea, sound off.
See, I know what they're trying to do. I don't think the execution of it, of how they're doing it the first year, makes it special. They're really it's foreshadowing that Cottrell wore a soccer jersey today. They're trying to take European soccer's models of how they run their cup games throughout the middle of their season when teams are playing for different trophies. That's kind of what they're going for. I mean, they literally named the damn thing the NBA Cup, which is dumb. Like of all the freaking legends you have in the game, that you couldn't pick one of them and name the trophy after. You're gonna name it the NBA Cup. Anyway, more on that later. I I think this is going to need a lot of tweaking because overall, I think other than the fact that every game is going to be televised and that the finals and semifinals are most likely going to be in Vegas, which depending on who makes there could suck. Other than that, it's going to look like a lot of regular season basketball. It's not exciting. I just, I don't think anybody was calling for it. Nobody was like begging for them to do something like crazy like this. I think the execution's poor. I think if they tweak it and make major changes, could they make it something that fans or even the players will get excited for? Maybe. But right now you're just taking regular season games and just counting them in a different, in normal standings and then in a different standings thing for this stupid tournament. Overall, I think it's dumb. I think it's a money grab. I don't think it's anything more than that. They came up with a BS trophy and they're going to have 2 games or 3 games in Vegas to get people excited for it, because I think they're going to announce sooner or later that they're going to have an expansion team, and I think it's going to Vegas. I think it's a pretty.
There's
pretty
no doubt that the expansion team should go to Vegas,
and I don't disagree with that either. Okay. See, Seattle.
I think they would bring in both of them.
That's fair, and I'm okay with that
because they're going to have to expand by 2. The problem is you're going to have to move somebody from the east to the west then. And that's going to piss somebody off, but that's a different discussion for a different show. I agree with you. I think it's the most well-known secret in the world. They want to expand there. There's a lot of rumors that LeBron's going to retire and become the owner there, which I think would be incredible if I'm being honest. But I think it's a money grab, dude. I'm not excited about it, and I think if the execution of it was better, or if it was formatted differently, I'll say that. I think if it was something that made it seem more separate than the NBA regular season, I could get behind it more. Right now, like I said, it's just you're going to count regular season games just in a different column. Like it's just silly to me.
Cottrell.
I actually could not agree more. I mean, I think this is a very dumb thing. I think it's very unnecessary. I think they try to. Right now in WNBA, they do the same thing where they have the Commissioner's Cup, that like the in-season tournament that they do, and I get it. It draws a little bit more intrigue. Like I don't care. I mean, I'll watch basketball, but I don't necessarily care about basketball in this December. Like I'm watching my team, I'm watching the big games, but I don't necessarily care about what's going on in the entire NBA. So the fact that they are, putting on this tournament and having them be in Vegas, I guess it adds a little intrigue, but it's very unnecessary, and it's not moving the needle at all for me. There's no reason. Like I'm not going to just lock in like, oh, hey, the NBA Cup games are on right now. They're in the knockout stage. Let me go ahead and watch these games. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, we're never going to talk about player accolades and say, hey, they were the NBA Cup MVP back in 2023. That's never going to boost or bolster somebody's accolades. So really, really unnecessary for me. And, if I'm an NBA team, if my ultimate goal is a championship, why do I care about winning the Commissioners or the NBA Cup in this situation? Like, I'm still going to do the rest management with my guys, and we're going to just go from there. Like, that doesn't change anything about how I go through my normal routine.
I'm going to sound like an old man hollering at the clouds. Why? I don't understand why Adam Silver doesn't get shit on more than like we talk about commissioners when they do a bad job all the time. Adam Silver has done an awful job with the NBA. David Stern set him up in the best possible position he could walk into. It's the easiest sport to market. All your athletes, all your superstars are front and center stage. You can see their faces, their household names, your LeBron. The star factor in the NBA is bigger than any sport by far.
He's got the Roger Goodell thing, dude. He keeps making them. I don't disagree with you at all, but what I'm telling you is he continues to make the league more money hand over fist every year, and it lets him get away with a lot of stuff that he gets away with. Just like Goodell, they
full of terrible ideas. And I will say this, and I will say this again. The NBA players absolutely run the league, and I don't think that's a bad thing. I just think that they need to have a more responsible player group if you're going to listen. I think in other professional sports, the players are discarded way more often, and they are not given the platform to have a lot of say in what happens in their regular season and their rule changes. In the NBA, it's the exact opposite. I think the players have too much. I think they have too much power and leverage. I understand throwing the players a bone and giving them extra days off after the All-Star break to give them a full week. I understand allowing them to have some creative intelligence and what happens with the All-Star game, the pickup game, as opposed to the East versus West. What I don't understand is how the league has gotten worse and worse year over year as far as any in-season activities. So let me start with the All-Star game, because that's his responsibility. The dunk contest is an absolute joke. Superstars don't show up for it. The skills competitions got turned into Team Giannis so he can have his brothers involved. And, it's not fun. I actually think the greatest idea he had is the rookie-sophomore games, the way he breaks down the teams. I thought that was intelligent. The in-season tournament is stupid. Cottrell, maybe maybe you read more about it. How did they go about breaking up the divisions?
I don't know how they necessarily determined it, but it's not like just your normal divisions. But I mean, they split them up into Group A, Group B, just like FIFA does. I guess they sat down in a room and just said, "Hey, these teams are somewhat close to each other," and it was actually a formula. Again, I open with it by saying it for a reason. They came up with a formula, and then they kind of, just like they did with the World Cup, like Cottrell was about to say with FIFA, they put all the teams in pods, and then they come up with the formula. It's like all based off common opponents, win percentage, like winning margin. Like they try to break down the teams as much as they could, and all the teams got a number. And all the teams that had a number above this number went in pod A. All the teams with a number between this number and this number went in pod B. And then they just form the groups. They take one team out of pod A, one team out of pod B, one team out of pod C, and they were separated by Eastern and Western Conference, obviously. And that's how you got your groupings. That's literally it's literally a soccer formula. It's literally what it is. That's what they did.
The reason I say that is because when I looked at the groupings, it's very obvious. Boston got a very favorable grouping.
Facts.
Milwaukee got a very unfavorable grouping for being the number one seed. They have the New York Knicks and the Miami Heat in their group. I didn't understand that fully, but I get it now. I guess it makes somewhat sense. But when I look at the overall landscape of it, I still think teams are not going to care that much. I think if they wanted to make it interesting, you have the team that wins the NBA Cup automatically makes the playoffs.
I would watch that then.
Because it would be like they would fight to be able to make the playoffs.
Or you do something like this. Like you said.
Oh, I actually love that idea, Gene.
Around the All-Star break. None of them want to play 81 games anyway. None of them. Cut the regular season down to 65 games. Then play this tournament as a standalone thing in the middle of the season, where you go knockout and do all that stuff. And then, like you said, then the winner of it, that team is in the playoffs, no matter what.
I can't wait until you see the NBA third team. I swear to God, I'm not kidding with you. I want you to see the NBA third team this year. The NBA third team is going to be one of the worst NBA third teams you ever watch.
Yep.
You know what the NBA third team's reserved at? You're an all-NBA player that got injured, that maybe that's 60 games or 58 games. You're John Morant. You're Stephen Curry. You're LeBron that missed time. That's what the NBA third team has become, right? They're elite players. Third team this year, you're going to have Dante DiVincenzo.
It won't quite be that bad, but you'll see like your Jeremy Grants will probably be on, the third team. You'll have some guys
does,
there.
Control? That allows them to be eligible for higher contracts. And then you see more contracts like Jeremy Grant's freaking 5-year, $150 million deal with Portland.
Turn into a
$30
$200
million a
million
year.
deal.
That's why I don't know if you're quite going to see that, because that was part of the new CBA as well, with the minimum games for player awards.
65 games.
65 games. So, I mean, that is where I do agree with you that, the NBA players run the league. I think they had to give a little bit back to the owners who are paying these guys these crazy salaries, being like, listen, you can't play, you can't take one out of every 3 games off.
They pay them, Shelly. They pay them. And then what they do is the guys are like, oh, I'm just going to sit out.
Yeah.
Rest day.
Yeah. It's nuts.
82-game regular season. I'm not kidding. I don't mean to be rude when I say this. The NBA regular season is the softest regular season of any major sport.
Couldn't agree more.
Thanks.
And you play hockey for, was it 82 games for hockey also?
They play 81, but like they are.
That's fine.
You at least play. You almost play 3 games a week every week of the season in the NHL.
Well, the NHL is a lot more of a physical sport than the NBA is.
No doubt.
NFL, I don't have to argue that at all. Super physical sport. We don't have to talk about that. MLB plays a 162-game grueling season.
In like 180 days.
Yeah, 100%. The NBA is the softest regular season, and yet you have so many guys that are just, I'm good. Take tonight off. Rest night. Back-to-back. Feeling a little sore.
Some of these guys I get to, and some of these guys make sense. Like Kawhi Leonard, at this point, it seems like if he plays too many games in a row, his body's just going to break down on him, quite literally. Like he might just lose some knee cartilage out there on the court if he plays a back-to-back. But some of these other guys, like you got stars that aren't injured at all or don't have an injury history that are doing the load management, and that's what ultimately drives me crazy.
All right, gentlemen. Any other final thoughts on the NBA in-season tournament? I just think Adam Silver doesn't get shit on as much as he should. I
wouldn't argue that either. Like I said, I think he gets there's just so many things that I think he gets away with because he's on the Roger Goodell formula of running a league. Their money goes up every year, their revenue goes up every year, and I think at the end of the day, there's enough people that's all they care about. And I gotta say, he's probably been decent on some social stuff. So I think he gets way too much of a pass that he should. But I think you factor all those things in. I think that's why.
I gotta just real quick. I'll say with Adam Silver specifically, I think he is a players commissioner, no doubt about it. And so I think he doesn't get a lot of like shit behind it because, these players probably for the most part agree with most of the things that he's implemented. They're probably the ones telling him like, hey, let's do this. Like, let's add this as a part of, the season, things like that. Not necessarily this NBA Cup, but just other things like that. I think they support Adam Silver because he's always having their back with different issues. Now, just in general, before we move on, you got to be kidding me. I wanted to touch on just the Summer League real quick. I have to give so much credit to Jabari Smith Jr. He was a guy who wasn't necessarily high on coming out in his class. And last year didn't have the greatest rookie year. But although he was that top 3 pick last year, he came back this year, still played in the Summer League and dominated in it. He said that we were a terrible team last year, and I want to come out here and I want to play with these guys because I still have work to do. So that's very commendable, and I think that's a great move for him.
It's a second-year player that played terrible as a rookie year.
Yeah, but you don't see a lot of guys that are out there in the Summer League that are in that position.
I mean, I guess
Summer
like
League.
how many top 3 picks go out there and play in the Summer League their second season, no matter how bad they were.
Chet's doing it.
Well, Chet didn't play last year. That's why.
I'm kidding. Look, at the end of the day, I'm not giving Jabari Smith any credit until he does it in the regular season. I've called him a bust since he got in the NBA. I still think he's a bust. But let's get into you guys.
I can't knock a guy for working on his craft.
No, and I get it, but I don't. It's not alarming to me that he went to work on his craft a little more after a disappointing rookie year. Was he the best rookie last year? Second, third, fourth, fifth?
If I'm a top 3 guy, I work on my craft during the offseason. I don't necessarily have to play in the Summer League. Like there's not like there was guys around him
You're right. But it's probably the most exposure he's gotten playing in Houston. You probably get more people to watch the summer league than Houston Rockets games outside of the Houston area. Am I lying?
Right now, you're not. No, but
I mean, they're terrible. I mean, I would assume they're gonna be better this year. But
that might be a team that wins the NBA Cup out of nowhere. Well, just because they're gonna have the young guys that are.
Man, wouldn't that be fun if
have something to play about?
Wouldn't that be fun if whoever won that already had a playoff spot? And you look at Houston, they already have a playoff spot.
Facts.
In December, that'd be fun.
I love that.
Or they should do it like the FA Cup or something. Like they should have like all like the G League teams in it, like something like that. Like it's just, it's like you're like I guarantee you, people are gonna watch and be like, "Oh crap, this is an NBA Cup game." I just thought it was just a typical like home
Tuesday
game.
night game on TNT.
Like, yeah, exactly. Like that's what's gonna happen. It sucks. It's stupid. It's a money grab. I haven't seen one damn player yet come out and be like, I can't wait to play NBA Cup games. I haven't seen one.
I'm just tweeting somebody real quick, hoping that they can tune in right now for what I'm about to go over. You got to be kidding me. Cottrell starts off.
Perfect. So mine this week's a little bit more serious. I'm going with Pat Fitzgerald and the Northwestern football team. So
I'll just be back here.
For those of you that don't know, Pat Fitzgerald was fired, from as the head coach of their team because of various hazing allegations going on along the program. And it's not just that the hazing allegations, the hazing was going on. It was the fact that he knew about it and, he didn't do anything about it. For me, I just think that's absolutely inexcusable, especially for a guy in that position. Pat Fitzgerald, you're trusted by so many parents that to have, these kids' best interests and essentially, keep them safe for the next 4 years. They trusted you. They trusted their kids to go to you. And for you to have this going on, it's ugly. It's very ugly. Not only are they talking about like sexual assault claims and different things like that, but the fact that he knew about it and just didn't do anything about it, it's absolutely crazy to me. And I think the even crazier part is that Northwestern decided to keep all of the assistant coaches, from that staff. I think that is how is that possible? If Pat knew about it, that means all those assistant coaches knew about it too, and they neglected to do anything about it as well. So this week for me, Pat Fitzgerald, that Northwestern football team and their athletic department.
Come on, you gotta be kidding me.
So Charlie, if was that yours? I use Bob Huggins. I don't know why no one's not using Bob Huggins.
Because I don't think anybody really knows what the hell's going on with the Bob Huggins thing. I mean, he's saying that he didn't resign, so I don't know, man. Like they're saying,
I'll use him before I get my second one. The guy is saying that he didn't resign. Do you know what Bob Huggins has done over the last 181 days? Like he went on a radio show and used a homophobic slur versus Xavier.
And then had
he got a DUI. Bob Huggins should be in jail. We're talking about he didn't resign from West Virginia. Why? Because he's a good basketball coach. We're not shitting on him. Bob Huggins should be in jail. Scumbag. Lock him up. I don't care how good of a basketball coach he is. Put him in jail.
I am not defending Bob Huggins at all here. I just want to give out a reminder. Mark Few got 3 out-of-conference games against nobodies
for DUI. It's not just a DUI. It's the problem.
I get it. I'm just saying 3 games is that set the standard. And I know it's more than that. Like
I agree with
the original statement that he made, that was, cause enough for termination.
Correct.
And then you add the DUI on top of it. Of course, that just piggybacks off of it even more. But
he said Xavier was a bunch of Catholic.
Yep.
Oh, come on, dude.
Yeah. Wild.
So you don't have one? Do you want to go?
I was going to use Fitzgerald. I think that's going to get more interesting down the line because it came out that the university's investigation showed, without a shadow of a doubt that he didn't know about it. And that's why he just got suspended. And then the athletic director and the president pretty much on their own decided to fire him. So
because it came out and got public.
Yeah, so that's going to get spicy, I think.
So then use Northwestern's athletic director because they knew, and then they wait until it became public.
It's not factual yet.
I know. I get it. All right. Let me get into mine. You guys know who Joe Shasky is? Before I brought him up today, did you guys know who Joe Shasky was?
Joe Shiesty?
Shasky.
Oh, no. Got nothing.
I didn't by name. When you told me what you were doing tonight, I remember seeing that. So I now know who he is.
I'm going to rewind you until January 29th of this current year, 2023. Joe Shasky went on the Joe DeCamera and John Ritchie show. Basically, I'm going to the Eagles game. You guys aren't going to do crap. I'm a 49ers host. I'm going to wear my 49ers gear. And here's where I'm sitting. Try something. You ain't going to try nothing. I have the tape. I can't play it because it's 94 WIP stuff. He legitimately went on Philadelphia radio antagonizing fans, saying, this is where I'm going to sit. The 49ers are going to come into your building, kick your ass, and you're not going to do nothing. Bunch of fake thugs in Philadelphia. What he said. Fast forward to the game. Philadelphia Eagles beat the crap out of the 49ers. Joe Shasky had a couple hot dogs thrown at him. He had a beer thrown at him. Okay, I don't agree with throwing stuff at somebody. I don't agree with throwing a beer at them or whatever. Joe Shasky was on the radio recently, and he said, it's okay to be a dirty, crappy fan in Philadelphia because that's what Philly fans do, and that's what I'm sick of. If a Niner fan did this in OC, you know what? They would file it under thugs. Am I wrong? Yeah. You know why? Because our fan base looks a little different than a Philadelphia fan base. Believe me, I've been to both stadiums. What a bunch of low-life scumbags cursing and swearing and throwing things at people. Like, I'm sick of it. And you know what? Good for Debo for hanging up on him. Screw Philadelphia. Oh, Joe, they have a saying in this world. There's a lot of sayings that can go with what you just said. One of them is don't poke the bear. You went on Philadelphia radio before the NFC Championship game bragging about where you're sitting and telling Philadelphia fans they're not going to do nothing to you. If I did that in San Fran, I promise you, San Francisco fan, have you ever been to LA? Do you know what they tell you at Dodger Stadium before you go in? They don't allow you to wear red. You're not allowed to wear red in the stadium. Now, I get it. It's because of gang colors. But there's a fair warning that what happens when you go into certain stadiums. Philadelphia is known for being a passionate fan base. So I agree with all the idiots that throw things or throw beers. That's why I don't go to the games. I don't go to the games. I don't agree that people get a little too drunk and they do things they shouldn't do, that they would regret. But what I'm not doing is walking in the Yankee Stadium wearing a Red Sox shirt and telling everybody, here's my seats and you're not going to do nothing about it. What I'm not doing is walking into San Francisco and wearing a Rams jersey and saying, here's where I'm sitting, do something about it. What I'm not doing is walking into Chavez Ravine wearing a Giants jersey saying, do something about it. Stop blaming it on Philadelphia. You're an idiot. You're a shock jock on San Francisco radio that thinks you're bigger than what you are. And this is your 15 minutes of fame because that went viral, that clip. But don't poke the bear. And I guarantee you that Joe doesn't show up in Philadelphia for the December 3rd matchup versus San Francisco. Run your mouth on a radio station in San Fran calling Philadelphia, screw Philadelphia, and Philadelphia is full of scumbags and dirtballs. You're a scumbag. And for that, this week, that dope.
Come on, you gotta be kidding me.
Thoughts, shall we?
I mean, listen, I don't disagree with you can't, and it's, we get the bad rap for our fan base, but I mean, you go on and watch Sports Center and you're seeing people, get thrown over railings or getting, old people getting sucker punched in the stands. If that was Philly, it would be national news, but it happens everywhere. I can tell you, it's, I've seen And Cottrell's probably seen it too. It happens at college games. I've gone to Michigan, Ohio State games and seen people come in to Michigan Stadium with Ohio State gear on, and the same kind of thing. I saw an 8-year-old get popcorn thrown on him, and I'm not kidding. It happens everywhere. It happens everywhere. Like this whole notion that it's a Philly thing, it's BS.
Boo, Eugene, you laughing at this 8-year-old and his popcorn?
I'm
Probably was like his worst day ever.
I'm laughing at. Listen, dude. I'm laughing at the fact that this stuff happens in every stadium in the country. There's a viral video of a guy wearing all Michigan stuff, leaving the Ohio State game in the horseshoe, saying, "Great game, guys! Great game." It's like he's trying to be, he's trolling, but the things that get said to him,
it happens everywhere.
That's the point. And this guy's going on a Philadelphia radio station before an NFC Championship game, poking the bear and antagonizing the fan base, and thinking that you're not going to get the look, dude. You mess with the bull, you're going to get the horns.
And in my situation, I blame the father, but I mean, he bought his 8-year-old into a Michigan Ohio State game and bought tickets in the student section. I'm not quite sure what he thought was going to happen, but
yeah, that's just not a good idea.
No. And again, the 8-year-old certainly still didn't deserve for the popcorn to get dumped on his head. But at the same time, I don't know what kind of father would put their son in that situation either.
Builds character.
I hope he likes popcorn.
Well, that man got his 15 minutes of fame, and that's all he's going to get from me. I'm done with him. Any final thoughts, Joe? Oh, by the way, I got a final thought.
So I got one.
My guy, Cottrell, my man, 100 grand, just had a birthday, and I wanted to wish you a happy birthday on air. Listen, I should have did it last week before your birthday, so I apologize about that. But your birthday was a lot closer to this show than it was the last show.
True.
Happy birthday. I love you, brother. We got to get together in person soon, but I really appreciate every week being able to get on it and do the show with you. So happy birthday, fam. And I hope you had a great one.
Appreciate it, man. Appreciate it.
I'm going to echo those sentiments. We love you. We do miss you, even though you're in that godforsaken state. I will echo what I said on Facebook. You will probably be the only Ohio State fan in my life that I love as a human being. I don't think that's going to change. But I hope you had a great birthday. I hope you enjoyed it. I hate that you're so freaking young. I didn't realize you were as young as you were until yesterday. I just keep forgetting that. But I mean, other than that, it's fine. I'm still more handsome. So it's everything works out in the end. The second one, this one's kind of funny. Oh, not funny. It's a great thing. It's funny because he has, kind of history with one of the hosts on this show now. But I'm going to congratulate Brandon Burkhead and Chelsea Detweiler. They did have their son today. Healthy baby boy. Over 10 pounds.
Jesus.
Grayson Burkhead.
Oh, you should see his friggin' father.
Yeah, Berkey's a big boy.
Yeah, 10 pounds. I expected that. By the way, me and that little boy's father are good.
I wasn't starting to pot. I wasn't saying it in a bad way. I was just saying it's, it is what it is. But no, they had their son Grayson today. It was delivered this morning. So Chelsea's doing great as well. Everybody's healthy. Everybody's, came out with all their fingers and toes. So congrats to both of them on their baby boy.
I just can't wait to see how good of a baseball player that little boy is.
I think he just got a Bama offer right out the womb.
I got the genes for sure.
I wouldn't be shocked
because Chelsea's a good player in her own right.
Chelsea's a hell of a player. One of the top 5 female players I've ever seen on a softball field. Top 10, top 5. She's very good. I'm not trying to take anything away by making it 10 because I've seen a lot of good female softball players.
She's
what?
She's firmly in that conversation.
Yeah. And Berkey's a monster. Guys smokes the ball. Huge. They don't build them like that anymore. God, I don't know what they put in the water when they were raising that kid.
Oh, he drank a lot of it, though.
All right. Any final comments, Kitro?
Nothing from me this week.
All right. Well, that's it. We got 9 o'clock on the dot. Thank you for tuning in to Wire Sports Podcast.
Shally Week next week, baby.
Download us on Apple Podcast.
Got World Cup. We got the British Open. It's a Shally special next week.
I'm not coming next week. I'm off.
All right, fine.
iHeartRadio,
Fine.
Stitcher. We'll have her. Yeah, like I gotta give credit to a Dallas Cowboy next week. It's a weird week.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, he's gonna be number one. I mean, it just is what it is.
It's not number one on your list. You're just hating.
Facts.
Well, thank you for tuning in to Wire to Wire Sports Podcast. I'm Wire to Wire Gene. That's College Cottrell. Uncle Shally. We're signing out.